Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Intuitive Queen podcast. I am your host, Mara Marchesi, aka the Intuition Queen. If you are new to this podcast, welcome. And if you've been listening and watching this for a long time, thank you for coming back. So, let me tell you a little bit about me. I am an intuitive and creative coach, a healer, psychic, and obviously a podcaster. And I'm really passionate to help people, entrepreneurs, and creative people to release any kind of blockages, fears, limitations, anything that stops them from being their true self. And I do that helping you to connect to your intuition, because I really think that trusting yourself is the most powerful thing and tool that we have, because nobody can stop us when we are able to trust our decisions and ourselves and what our soul wants us to do. And in doing that, we often come across a lot of obstacles that could be fears, could be limiting beliefs, could be subconscious situations that we don't even know about. And sometimes we feel stuck, we feel like we cannot move to the next level, and we don't really know why. And it doesn't matter if you're very successful, a little bit successful, how you define that. But my passion is really to help you to unlock all of your potential so that you can truly be yourself and create the life that you truly desire. And step into the frequency of abundance, love, success, friendship, anything that you truly want. So this podcast is here because I wanted to share as many stories as possible of people that have decided at some point to trust their intuition and really change their life. So you're going to hear all kinds of story, people that have gone through really traumatic experiences in their life, painful ones, some that actually didn't have that much of a challenge, but still they had to come out of the closet, as they say, to show the people that they were a spiritual being and they could actually create a life that was different from the path they had started with. This podcast is here to inspire you, to help you to get clarity, to take action. And I hope you find some help in here, either with the stories that I'm going to share or with the stories that my guests are going to share. Time to dive into the new episode. Enjoy it. Welcome to a new episode. Today, I have a guest that will talk to us a lot about love. Her name is Teal Elizabeth, and she is an energetic healer and love coach. And welcome, Teal.
Thank you, Mara. It's so wonderful to be here.
So nice to have you. I never had a love coach on the podcast, so I'm really excited to have you, and I'm really excited to get into the conversation about love and how to find love and all of that, because I feel that a lot of people are looking for love, and for a lot of people, it feels difficult. But before we get into that, I always ask a question at the beginning of the episode, which is about intuition. I am curious to know for you if you've always been connected to your intuition. You mentioned before, we were chatting a little bit before, and you said to me that everything is downloaded from source. So, of course, you are connected to your intuition right now. But how was your experience when you were younger, when you were a child? Were you always feeling connected, or it's something that you decided at some point, or you felt like it came to you?
Yeah. Well, the short answer is, gosh, well, I know it's always been there. And from the time I was 3 years old, my parents actually put me in a very progressive private school that really supported and encouraged spiritual awakening. So we would do meditations every day. We would go out into the forest and talk to trees, and it was, it
Wow.
was a very woo-woo school. But I wouldn't say that I was really tapped into my intuition at
Mm,
that point, but it was very much cultivated and encouraged. But I think really and then I think over time, as I kind of got caught up in the hustle of going to school, getting good grades, getting into college, getting a job, I kind of lost touch with it, which I think a lot of people do.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it really came back full force when I decided to take a break from the corporate world and go and travel. And I ended up going to Southeast Asia. And we can talk a lot about this, but I ended up going and traveling and checking myself into a 5-day Buddhist silent meditation retreat. And that
Mm.
was really a pivotal moment for me to reactivate that intuition and give such a profound understanding of myself. And I actually had an out of body experience while I was there. I was 23 years old. So it's an interesting question because I think, yeah, I would say I've always been intuitively led because something brought me
Mhm.
to Thailand, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it was really until I was in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, up in this Buddhist temple in the mountains that I really went, "Whoa, from now on, this is how I wanna live my life."
Oh, I love that. But I am very curious to hear a bit more about the silent retreat because I've never done one. But I've always been interested. I think it's very much eat, pray, and love that you need to be silent and and all of that
Totally.
kind of thing. But tell me a little bit what that meant for you because I guess that you arrived in that place, as you said, like from from having done all of the things and kind of having not lost, but maybe forgot how powerful your intuition could be. So you got there a little bit, maybe cluttered, and you left feeling like, oh, this is actually very powerful. So talk us through this process of you being there. How how was that for you at the very beginning and how it opened up for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So leading up to that, I had been working in the corporate world, kind of checking off all the boxes of my life,
Hmm.
career and house and car and friends. But I had this gaping hole that was my love life. And it just felt like no
Hmm.
matter what I did, I couldn't go and get the love. And it really, really frustrated me. And I started getting myself into this pattern that I now talk about called the hook and fizzle, where I would just keep dating men and I'd attract them in. And then a few weeks or a few months into dating me, they would just fizzle away or just dump me on the spot.
Right.
And this went on and on and on for over 8 years. And it really started to affect my self esteem, my self confidence, and starting to wonder, like, what is wrong with me that I can't seem to get a man to stick around? And that was a really big influence for me to say, you know what, I just need to take a break from dating. I need to take a break from this corporate world and hustle and masculine and culture that I've gotten myself sucked into and just really explore and find me again. And so when I went there, yeah, the first few days of this retreat, I mean, first off, you donate all your clothes and they make you wear white robes. You are literally in a room up on the top of this mountain by yourself in a cot with 4 white walls, and that's it. Nothing
Oh.
else. You're not allowed to read. You're not allowed to listen to anything.
Oh.
You're not, the only thing you can do is write. And yeah, from the moment you sign in, you are taking a vow of silence. It totally was Eat, Pray, Love, but this was even before Eat, Pray, Love was a thing. And I remember those first 2 days of the 5 days, my mind would not stop talking. It was just
Mm.
constant chatter, that monkey mind. "When is this gonna end? I'm bored. I'm hungry," like, um, get me to do something. "Why did I do this? I should just leave. I could leave at any time. Why am I here?" And it was really frustrating to have this thing just running in my head all the time, and I realized that it was draining. It was energetically draining my whole
Mhm.
body. And on day 3, I'm sitting there all by myself, and I just really started to let that mind quiet. I think it got tired or just ran out of things to say. And so it just finally slowed down a little bit. I was actually able to just notice my breathing. And they always talk about this with meditation, just notice the
Mhm.
breathing. And the brain's like, I don't want to listen to breathing. I want to think about things. And I started noticing my breathing. And next thing I noticed, my brain was just completely silent. And all I could feel was this detachment that was starting to happen inside of my body, where it literally felt like my soul was releasing itself from inside of my body and started to hover up above my head, above my body, and floating up like a hot air balloon about 10 feet above my body. And it started looking down at me. And it was the strangest experience because to me, it was the closest thing to a near death experience, right? People talk about
Mm.
being in a coma and they can see themselves and
Yeah.
their body in the coma, but they're up in the hospital room, right? I was up there at the top of the temple looking down at my meditating body And then I realized, "Oh my god, I'm not in my body," and I zoomed back down to make sure I hadn't died. But in that moment, it really woke me up to something. It really showed me that there was something so much bigger here than what I had been giving myself credit to,
Mm,
and that that mind was such a small piece of the entity of who I am. And I realized that we really are this beautiful trinity of a mind, a body, and a soul. And that soul has such an energetic presence that I wasn't giving
mhm.
credit to. And I think that this is something that a lot of people maybe understand on a subconscious level, but don't actually realize it on a conscious
Yeah,
level, is that we have this very, very powerful energetic spirit within us that is there, but it tends to be pushed down or quieted or just not given the attention that it needs until either something really bad happens or we have a hunch about something and then we don't realize it until afterwards and go, "Oh, I knew that." And so I started to really be curious about that moving forward, and I started giving it more space to come forward. And it was little things like couple days afterwards, I would just start to ask my intuition, "What feels good right now?" And it would say, "Go get a burrito from the place down the street." And I'd go and get a burrito, and then I'd end up meeting somebody, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And I
mhm.
started to just allow more of these synchronicities to happen and to let the intuition have the driver's seat. And every time the mind would start to go, man, this is stupid," I'd say, "You know what? Let's just put you over here for a little bit. I'm doing a little experiment within myself." And I started to be able to take back the power and rebalance the scales a little bit. And from that place, everything started to open up in a really beautiful way. And I was just led to be guided to a relationship coach that helped started me on this journey of learning about feminine energy, which I was so
Mm,
disconnected to, but was able to remember who I was as this divine goddess that, again, had kind of been lost in the masculine corporate world of our modern day. And
yeah,
then it was starting to waken me to, you need to start a company, you need to teach about this, you need to help other women learn how to connect with themselves. And through that experience, my energy ended up shifting so much that my interactions with men were different. And I ended
right.
up attracting in the now love of my life. And it all just kind of transpired from there.
Oh, so much here. I love so much this process that you went through. And I think that, we are so busy because life make us busy, but sometimes we make ourselves busy on purpose. And
Hmm.
I can only just imagine when you are there with nobody to talk to, four walls and nothing to do, and how you can go crazy. But eventually, when you let it go, something can happen and really you can be guided. Um, what happened when you left so you decided to go work with a coach? No, actually, what I wanted to ask, because I was forgetting the question. You were very young when you went there, because normally, being in corporate, and it's normally, I'm talking to 30 something years old, 40 something years old, like you've done all of that. You're like, I am so done with this. But you started very young. And I think that probably your upbringing, even though for you, maybe you were really understanding what was happening at school and why you had to do all of that thing, maybe catapulted to that point earlier on, like as if your soul said, no, 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 there's no need for you to go through all of that for that long.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I did end up going back to the corporate world and ended up working back in the corporate world for many years, and ended up working even at Uber in San Francisco on the headquarters team. And it was really interesting to be back in that environment, but being such a different version
Mm,
of me. And they actually hired me to bring to build out all of the transformational training programs for the employees there around stress management and well-being and burnout, and actually bringing meditation to a very corporate masculine workplace. So it shifted even in my ability to be in the corporate space, but as a more
right.
feminine tapped in being, which was really powerful.
Mm. Tell us about it, because how did you, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure you were confident in what you were doing. And as you said, your coach told you you need to do this, and you started to share. But how was for you to be in such a masculine environment and go into it with, I imagine, a lot of your feminine energy, and go like, okay, now Let's talk about this. Let's talk about feelings. Let's meditate. I mean, you're in California, so I think there is a little bit more of an openness to the wellness industry in general, even in corporate like this, and big corporate like this, big names. But how was the experience for you?
Yeah, it was definitely something I needed to challenge myself because my internal self was saying, "Oh gosh, I need to fit in. I need to make sure they like me." And then this other part of me was like, "No, if I fit in, then I'm not doing what I'm here to be trained to do, or here to
Mm,
to be paid to do." So it really was kind of pushing the envelope a little bit. And a lot of things was like leaving at 5 o'clock because I'm teaching about wellness and work-life balance, and everyone's looking at me like, "What are you doing? You're leaving so early." And I'm like,
mm.
"No, I'm practicing life balance, and I'm gonna be teaching you about it, so I need to practice it and emulate it." So a lot of pushing against the grain of what wasn't a good toxic or what was a good culture. Um, but over time, I was actually really surprised to see how open and welcoming people were to it. And it was almost a really, it's like a breath of fresh air to give people this opportunity to have an outlet for their stress, for the burnout, for giving them permission that it's okay to feel the way you feel, and almost having that, yeah, that voice to speak to things that a lot of people's intuition were saying, "Hey, this isn't working for me, but nobody's talking about this." So I hope that even this conversation is just permission to anyone who is kind of in that world, maybe sucked into that masculine, really corporate hustling culture and just feeling a little bit maxed out to say, hey, it's okay to push back a little bit on that. And it's okay to actually say, no, we need to do some things to change. And even my dad, he tells me about his work environment. And I'm like, Dad, you need to push back on these people a little bit
Mm.
because they're going to keep taking and taking and taking as much as they can get from you unless you push back and really
Yeah.
stand up for yourself. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the feminine is that it's not just like wearing white robes and just, frilling around and saying, "Oh, I love fluffy blankets." It's about really having this inner power and this inner strength of I know my worth, I know my
Mm-mm.
value, I know who I
Yeah.
am. I know my boundaries, I know my needs. You're not gonna fuck with that,
Mhm.
right? But
Mm-mm.
I don't need to show that, I don't need to, like, put that out there with that energy of "Don't mess with me." It's much more of a gentle softness of, "This is how I operate, please respect that. I respect it within myself, and I ask for that respect within you. And if that's not gonna work for you, then this is not gonna work together."
Yeah.
And I think that that's the piece that a lot of women are losing or have lost, is that our world has gotten so far swung on the pendulum where women have lost that connection to the feminine and is now almost turned just into extreme feminism, where we feel like we want to be like men. We want to prove ourselves. We want to show that we can be and have everything that men can have, which is powerful, but it's coming at the expense of actually being a woman and being able to present and bring out that beautiful soft energy. And that's really what I call women forward to reclaim within themselves, is how do we pull that pendulum back to this place of not giving up all the power and beautiful rights that we have as empowered women of this
Mhm.
day, but how can we hold that on the inside so that we can be soft and nurturing and inviting and magnetic on the outside? And I'll just give you a tip. It helps a lot and it really, really changes the entire
Tell us,
way
tell us.
that everybody interacts with you. It was incredible for me to see the way that people started to shift their interactions with me as I started to really bring this more soft, strong on the inside, soft on the outside approach to my interactions with everyone. People would just go out of their way to support me, to help me. They felt so relaxed and at peace with me because I was able to just be very open about how I felt about things. So there was never any questions. There was never any like getting up into our head and judging and getting anxious about things. It was always just a very open conversation. And that's what I want to make women feel in my presence. And that's what I want women to feel like they can command that presence with everybody
Mm.
else.
Yeah, this is beautiful, but I feel that it can be very difficult to achieve that when you have worked for so long in a certain environment, and maybe you have come from a difficult situation. You had to harden up in order to survive, like a lot of us have had to do, because
Yes.
otherwise people look at you as if you are too weak, or you're not worthy of a certain promotion or whatever that could be, not necessarily in the professional environment, but even in in a social aspect with friends and with a community, with a partner, or looking for a partner. Um, and I feel that we learn to do that and we then stick with that because we can see that somehow we manage to go further, but still then there is that disconnection and that deep void of I am this, but I need to pretend to be this to in
Mm.
order for me to get this. So when you come from this space, how do you shift and connect to that part of your feminine energy in order to, because I love that you said, feeling self-secure from the inside to a point where you know who you are, you know where you stand, you know your worth, which I feel it's what a lot of us need to work on. But then not necessarily be very masculine in the way we approach other people, very strong, but just be strong in who we are, and then approach the people and the situation in a more relaxed way, like your program. I feel like that that word resonates. So how do you shift in that mode without feeling like you're losing something, you're losing power?
Yes, I love that you're asking this question because I think this is the biggest struggle of the modern day woman
Yeah.
is feeling like if I allow myself to be quote unquote feminine, I'm going to be seen as weak or needy or
Mm-hmm.
not respected. And so because of that, we hold that strength, that power on the outside is yes, I've got it. I'm
Yeah.
independent. I can take care of myself. Don't fuck with me. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, I mean, we do get our way, but it comes in at a detriment. And that's how I carried myself for a long time. I was not void to this either. I was trained that, I was conditioned that. I, you know, even my mother emulated that. It was what I knew. I had no idea about this other feminine side of myself. And I almost see it as like we think about the old feminine dynamic as almost I see it as more of a toxic feminine. The woman that is super emotional, tons of
Mm-hmm.
feelings all the
Mm-hmm.
time. It's just
Yeah.
gonna start crying anytime someone talks to her. Doesn't really have a backbone, lets people walk all over her, wants to people please, wants to just be able to, accommodate everyone. That isn't real powerful femininity. That to me is, like I said, toxic femininity. So then, like I said, we've swung almost into this other masculine place where we hold the strength on the outside, but we might still feel a little squishy inside. So that's the next evolution. And what I'm inviting women into is a third evolution, which is inverting that, bringing that strength on the inside and inviting you into the softness on the outside. And when you have the softness on the outside, but the strength on the inside, people feel that energy. They
Mm-mm.
get it. They understand, "Oh, I respect you so much because you respect yourself and you carry yourself with this poise." An intuitive queen, right? It's the queen
Mm-hmm.
essence of carrying yourself with this poise and of regalness of, "Yeah, I know who I am. I know what I need. I know what I want, and I'm gonna go after that." Um, but not needing to have the spikes attached to that,
Right. Yeah.
softening those spikes. And a lot of it, the how to, I mean, this is what I go into in depth with my clients and my offerings, but a lot of it is about the way you carry your energy and the way you communicate. Right? So,
Yeah.
how do you manage those emotions when they do come up so that it doesn't come off overly emotional or shoved down until it just wants to explode on someone, right? Because that's what makes people go, ugh, yuck. But when you
Yes.
can carry your emotions from the beauty and the power and the majesty that they are, people can really respect your emotions. It can actually bring more intimacy and more closeness, both in a work setting and with men in relationships. How do you navigate conflict, right? And are you going to come into it battling like a man, or are you going to come into it from a place of a teammate? Here's my side. I'd love to know your side. How can we work together to accomplish this disagreement? And again, that brings so much safety and it brings so much closeness to that working relationship. So it really is to me, it's an invitation into the next level of our being as a woman.
Mm. Yeah.
If you've if
Yeah.
you've if you're listening, women, you've been in that place of feeling strong on the outside, but maybe a little squishy and soft on the inside, this is your invitation to start to get curious of how can I invert that strength? And what would that look like if I started carrying myself from that strong on the inside and soft on the outside space? And what would shift for me? How do you think my interactions would be different with people? if I wasn't always trying to protect myself.
Mm-mm.
And I'll give you a clue, especially with men in relationships, because this was the number one reason why the fizzle was happening, is that men were being drawn in by this allure of being this strong, powerful,
Mm-mm.
independent woman, but then they realize there's spikes attached to that. And I can't get close, and all that squishy stuff on the inside, I don't know if I respect that because it still feels very insecure.
Right.
And that's when they would realize, "I can't go any further," and they would leave.
Mm-mm. Mm.
And that's why I kept getting stuck in that pattern for so long. And this is something I see for a lot of women too. They get stuck in this kind of pattern and cycle. But it is
Yeah.
reversible and it is shiftable. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I know so much to say here. Yeah, and I think, it's understanding that, um, for me, the thing that comes from everything that you said is really about learning to understand yourself from an energetic and emotional perspective, because it's true. A lot of us are extremely emotional. And I finished working with a client a few months ago, and the problem for her was that she would just go crazy with her emotions, and she was like, I don't know what to do with my marriage anymore. And we worked on her feeling safe and secure within herself, so that she wouldn't go off on her husband for a reason or for no reason, because
Mhm.
there was no discernment on when to maybe go off and have an argument and when not. It was just pure emotional stress that was kind of put over to him for a reason or not. And we did a lot of work on that. And eventually, and obviously, that came from being a people pleaser a lot and not really knowing when it's you or when it's other people maneuvering you into a decision, into anything else that then you realize is detrimental, but you don't know what to do or you don't know how you got there.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to understand, like, learn to understand why your emotions are so up and down. Why do you feel so much triggered by something? Why do you feel the need to defend yourself all the time or to guard yourself so much? And I feel, for me, all of the emotions that we have are really the biggest information that we have about ourselves. And once we can understand more, then we can also decide, okay, this is no longer needed. I can tone this down and amp this up because this is better, and this is actually making me feel or making me look like I am too needy, or I am not interested, or whatever that could be. Um, but it boils down to really getting to know yourself and really wanted to have the courage to look at yourself in the mirror a little bit and be like, okay, what is it that I need to do in order to feel like that kind of woman that I want to be, or maybe that person that has, I don't know, that confidence that I feel like I struggle with, or whatever that could be.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really what I love supporting women in is 2 things. My whole company is called Relax into Love,
And I love your
helping
name.
women
I
She's like,
love
"I
it
love
so much. Yeah, I love it very much.
that." Relaxing into love with yourself and relaxing into love with a partner, and those to me are the 2 pillars. First, you have to
Mhm.
fall in back in love with yourself, which means really
Yeah,
honoring yourself, understanding yourself, knowing how to operate with yourself, filling up your own cup so that you're not looking to anyone else to validate and complete you.
yeah,
And then from that place, building this third sphere of partnership where you and this other person get to come together and create something outside of yourself that is that beautiful divine union. And that's something I've been able to now create. I've been married for, gosh, 3 years, been with my man for over 11 years, and yeah,
oh,
have 2 kids, and it's just been absolutely phenomenal to see how much has transpired since that
mm,
time when I said, "You know what? I need to focus on what I can control here and what I can
yeah,
do to shift myself."
yeah. And I think, like, when you put the attention onto yourself, a lot of the things that you don't even think about will shift, because you're no longer thinking that someone else will make your life better, someone else will give you more love, or someone else. And that's where I feel like a lot of people struggle with, because especially as women, we grew up thinking, um, especially I come from Italy, so my mom was a housewife. And so all of this thing, like you need to meet a man so the man takes care of you,
Mm,
which is always the man takes care of you financially. You end up becoming a people pleaser and someone that takes care of everybody but yourself,
mm,
or that becomes so frustrated that like you don't want to see anybody. And there is this oscillation of emotions and desperation sometimes when you can't find the man to provide for you, because you have this idea that someone else is supposed to give you what you cannot find within yourself. And when
mm.
you shift that focus into yourself, everything shifts. And as you said, that magnetism is because you know who you are, you know what you want, and nobody else can take that away from you.
Yes, beautifully said. Yes, 100%. And I'm so proud of you for moving
Thank
through
you.
that for yourself too, because that's a big one to overcome if that's what you've been conditioned to believe and think.
Yeah, I've always been against this idea. For me, freedom has always been, it has always been, it still is one of my core values. And my intuition has always been very strong. So I feel that even if I stumble across wrong relationships, also because I have a narcissistic mother. So that conditions you even more to stumble across the wrong people. But something within me was like, no, no, this is not what you're meant to be doing. This is not where you're
Mm,
meant to be. This is not the country you're meant to be living in. And,
mm,
this is not your path. Like
mm,
there's always been something within me that was like, no, this is not enough.
mm,
I did go through whatever I needed to go through, but the reason why I am also very much focused on learn to love yourself, learn to understand yourself, is because my life has changed the moment I started to do all of those things about learning to understand how my mindset worked or what I needed to heal in order to achieve whatever it is that I wanted. And I've seen the changes coming from such a fixed mindset environment where what I was told was this is where you are and this is where you can get. Like you need to m- study, meet a man, and have a family. And I was like, and I want nothing of that. So, for me, it's always been so difficult to find people that resonated with me not wanting to get married or to have a family, or I always wanted to do different things. Not meaning that I don't want love, but that love doesn't necessarily mean that for everybody.
mhm,
And so for me, it's been a journey of deconstructing all of that, and in doing it for myself, eventually this is what I do for other people, for my clients, because we're all there in this thing where like someone else will give you what we want, and because you are a woman, then you have to go through certain steps or otherwise you're not worthy of whatever. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not like that.
Yeah,
Like,
no. Let's
no,
challenge
okay, yeah, no,
that.
maybe for you, not for me.
Yes.
Luckily, like in all of the struggles that I've gone through, there's always been something inside of me being like, no, 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 wrong, wrong. Okay, no, okay, let's start over. And as scary as it was to start over, oftentimes that's where I feel like you find yourself and you find how strong you are and how powerful you are and how confident you are, and then you're like, oh, okay, so now I can do all of this and that. So for me, this is a big message and something I'm really passionate to share, because it's changed my life, but I see how other people's lives can change when they realize, and it's not just for women, it's for everybody really. Once you learn to understand that everything is within you and what you feel is missing in yourself, you can still find in yourself. And once you give it to yourself, then that's when the magic happens, and the right partner comes along, the right circle of friends comes along, job, anything, whatever opportunity you are looking for in your life, it's always right there in front of you, but you need to change and shift your energy. Otherwise, you're going to continue to attract the same kind of people that you don't want to.
Yes, yes. I love that you're talking about the intuition piece of just constantly having that little whisper of like, "Nope, that's not it. That's not it." And I remember there's a big part, after being in that corporate world for a while where I was like, "This is not my place." And that
Mhm.
same whisper, "You need to get out there and bring this message to the world. Women need to hear about this feminine energy. They need to hear about coming back home to their souls." And that's when I did probably the most bold decision I've ever done. And I was dating my boyfriend, now husband, at the time. And we just decided that 1 year from that day, we were going to quit our jobs and go travel the world and start online businesses.
Mm.
And a year later, we did exactly that. We probably had maybe about 3 or 4 months of savings saved up, but we just said, you know what? We're just going to literally burn all the bridges. We quit. We bought a one-way ticket to Norway and we left and we just started creating these businesses that now are continuing to propel us forward 7 years later. But at the time, I was terrified because all I had
Yeah.
was this little whisper saying, you need to get out of this world. It's time to do something radically different. And I know you want to travel with your man. This has been a dream of yours forever. It's not going to happen unless you take action. And I just said, okay, I'm doing it. And I remember like 2 weeks into the trip and I just freaked out. I had a total panic attack. I said, what am I doing? I don't have any other money sources coming in. I have no idea if I can actually teach this or get clients or anything like that. Here I am in this foreign country. I think I was in Portugal at the time. And I would literally hid under the covers and I was like, Spencer, I think we made the wrong decision. Like, we need to go back home. And he says, Teal, we can do this. And it was such a profound moment for me because I remember he asked me, he's like, do you know any entrepreneurial friends? And I said, yeah, I do. And he's like, what skill sets do you have from your corporate job? You've got skill sets, right? And I said, yeah, I do actually. I'm a project manager, I'm a course creator, blah, blah, blah. He says, okay, why don't you go to your entrepreneurial friends and ask them if they have any projects that they need help with? And so I did. And I got paid like maybe $200 to help this woman like build a course for her. But that $200 was the most profound money I've ever received because it showed me that
Mhm.
I could have my freedom, that I could
Right.
make money outside of someone else controlling me.
Right. Yeah.
And that set my mind free and made me go, okay, yes, I can figure this out. I can find a way to
Yeah.
make this work. And 7 years later, I'm still doing it. So I think that that intuition piece is so powerful, but then there's also the fear piece, right? That
Oh,
we
yeah.
really have
Oh
to
my
be
God.
able to
Yeah.
overcome because that fear piece, especially when you're pushing yourself farther than you've ever been outside your comfort zone. And even if your intuition's like, yes, this is the right thing,
Mhm.
that fear will crawl and pull
Oh
you
my God.
back like
Yes.
a gremlin into hell.
Yeah.
Unless you really, really have either the tools or the supportive partner or a coach or someone to say, no, 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 we're keeping you here. We're
Yeah.
making this the new normal.
Yeah. 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 Also, because I feel that, especially when you don't have people around you, or I feel like maybe now you open the internet and there is such a stream of intuitive people. So it's kind of like different. But I feel for me, especially back in the days, I always felt like something was wrong with me because like why can I not be like a lot of the friends I have that they just want to go to school, get a degree, get a job, get a family and just shut up. Like why do I feel this constant dissatisfaction
Mhm.
about my life? Because I do have a job, I do have a boyfriend. I am kind of going in that direction, but for me that direction was making me feel like without breath. Like I was like, no, 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 no. Freedom feels very much far away. And when I moved here, I was 27. So I went through all of my 20s with this feeling of I have the things, but I feel I'm suffocating.
Mm,
And there is this desire that I want to do this and I want to be there and I want to travel the world and I want to connect, whatever. And it felt like, what's wrong with me? Like, why can I not just be quiet? And then other times I was like, of course, no, I know I don't want to be quiet. But when that fear comes in, because you look around, you're like, they seem to be fine. Like everybody's kind of happy to get and move in with a boyfriend, get this job and whatever, and just have a quiet, not really quiet life, but standard life. And I was like, well, what's wrong with me? Like, I didn't know anyone around me that had this desire to not do the same things like everybody did. And for a long time, I was like, I I didn't know how to express this satisfaction. And everybody's, oh yeah, you just need to change job. And I would change job and be like, and here we are back again.
Mhm.
Like this dissatisfaction doesn't stop with me. And eventually then my intuition kind of the was like, okay, enough, now we're gonna make you go. And that shifted everything. I was like, oh, this is what I needed. I needed to leave everything and everyone and just be myself somewhere. So when nobody knows me, nobody's gonna tell me what to do and what not to do. But
Mm.
I feel like that fear and that confusion of what's going on with me, especially when you don't have people around you that either understand you or can guide you, like it happened to you with your partner, where you said, no, of course you can do it. Come on, you got it. Like sometimes it's that person telling you something, like your partner told you, that it's enough. It gets you going. And sometimes you just have to have the courage to be like, I don't know, I feel this and I'm just going to probably be wrong, but I'm going to follow it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Such a powerful discussion.
Yes, I love this. So, okay, so I love the name of your program, Relax into Love. And the reason why I love it, when I was looking at your website, is because with all of the conversations that I have with clients and friends, one of the things that comes up often when you're looking for a partner is that love is difficult, especially when either you are divorced. So I'm 42, and I have a lot of friends that either are going through divorce, have divorced, or simply they are in a time of their lives where relationships are hard. And so what do I do? And so I hear a lot of this, but also a lot of clients that might be looking for someone, but there is always this difficulty. Love feels difficult. Love feels especially I feel that with all these apps and the way that people treat you, how you're, so people feel like it is even more difficult than it used to be to meet someone and connect to someone and eventually become something. Um, so that's why I love that it's relaxed into love. So tell me a little bit more. How did you get into this, and what does it mean for you to be relaxed in love?
Yeah. Well, they always say that your mess is your message.
Mm.
And very much
Yeah, agree.
kind of like what you're talking about. And like I was talking about, I was stuck in this pattern for 8 years of this hook and fizzle.
Mm-mm-mm.
So to me, it was my messy challenge that I felt like I could not figure out until I cracked the code and figured it out. And so that's
Mm.
kind of what spurred it all. And then I think I loved the work. I dove into the work of feminine energy and relationship coaching to help myself first.
Yeah.
And then I ended up loving the work so much I just wanted to become a relationship coach. So that kind of brought it forward. And then literally one day as I was packing my apartment to go travel on this world trip, the name to me just dropped in as I was cleaning out my closet, and it said "relax into love," and I said, "That's exactly it. That's exactly what I want to feel. It's what I've been able to feel in my relationship. It's what I want every woman to feel." Because, like you said, it's something that it makes our brains spin, and it's the one thing that we just don't have an instruction manual to figure out. And there's so many
Yeah.
other things, areas in life where there are paths forward. If you want to build a business, okay, you got to start a website, you got to have email
Mhm.
lists, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to dating, there's really no one size fits all.
Yeah.
And at least what I've been able to find is I've been able to create really powerful, potent, transformational courses that maybe aren't going to purposely give you the one tomorrow. There's no way to orchestrate you to get the one tomorrow, but I have been able to distill the most powerful steps that I know every woman needs to either revisit or visit for the first time to get themselves to become the best version of themselves and
Mm-mm.
feel the most confident, feel the most radiant, be able to build up that inner strength and release all the walls on the outside. be able to heal the traumas and the energy leaks and the pain and the belief systems and the fears and all of those things that I feel like are very impactful to every single woman. And from that place, you will be more relaxed in your energy, just in general. And then from there, everything else gets to flow into place.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And I feel like w- we have a tendency to talk about how this is difficult, how we're struggling here. And what we're doing, we're just constantly reminding ourselves, our body, and our mind of the difficulty. And sometimes it really is about shifting that and be like, okay, so how do I want to feel in this situation? How do I want to feel in a relationship? And how I recorded a podcast that was about uh, meaningful connections and how to create more meaningful connections. But in order for you to do that, you need to know what you want and how you want to feel, because
Yeah.
otherwise, you meet people and you just get what you find. And to me, it's like, no, be intentional. You be intentional and you know exactly what you want to feel. And when you meet someone that doesn't match that, then you either start to be curious about it, or you know it's a no, 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 I don't want to feel that. That's not an experience I want to have in a relationship. And it becomes easier for you to even find different people, because you're starting to, as we said earlier, you know, you're starting to love yourself and you start to be like, no, I've been wanting, I don't know, a relationship for this much time, but this person makes me feel this and I don't want to feel this. And I think that's really important. And a lot of people, a lot of women fall into the trap of like, oh my god, I'm feeling all of the butterflies and but this and but yeah, but I'm gonna try. And sometimes I'm like, just listen to your intuition, please, because this
Yeah.
feeling is not gonna go. And yes, maybe it is super interesting and maybe it has this and it has that, but that feeling within is already telling you everything you need to know.
Yes. Yes. So true. So, so true. Yeah. And that's exactly what this work is. It's about learning to trust your intuition at the end of the day. I'm not here to tell you how to get the perfect man. I'm here to help you come back home to you so that you
Mm-mm.
can trust that and let everything else work itself out.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Come home to yourself. That's it. So, for the people listening, what do you think are three things? Like, let's say that they are looking for a partner now, or they've gone, just come out of a difficult relationship, or simply the relationship is over and they feel ready to meet someone. What are three things that you feel it's really important for them to think about, to do, in order to move a step forward and avoid to get into the old patterns?
Yeah, absolutely. I would first ask ask you to reflect on what you've learned from your past relationships, because your past relationships are going to give you a lot of insight into either what you do want for your future relationship or what you don't want to attract again. And a lot of times, if we don't have, like you said, the intention or the awareness, and we'll just continue to repeat the patterns and attract the same kind of thing. So, really looking back at your past and saying, did I fall into a pattern? Was I attracting a certain type of person in the past? What was that pattern? And that pattern is going to give you some indicators of either areas for you to really strengthen within yourself, or just a really clear guide of, oh, I've been attracting a lot of bad boys. Okay, what is this telling me? Okay, maybe I need to really expand and change my filter of the kind of men I want to look at and meet. So I think that's the first one, is using your past to guide you and influence you for your future.
Mhm.
Number two would be really getting clear on what does that ideal partnership look like, and more importantly, exactly like you said, how do I want to feel in this next relationship? Because the feeling is your intuition telling you if you are in alignment with your soul or not. And
Yeah.
your feeling is what's going to tell you way quicker than your brain if this is right or wrong. Because you're going to know in an instant, this doesn't feel right. Or, yes, this does feel right. I feel relaxed. I feel safe. I feel at peace with this person. Whereas if we give credit to the head, the mind is just going to go into all the overthinking and the second guessing and the anxiousness and
Mm-mm.
the people pleasing. So, as much as you can, staying out of the head, out of the criteria, out of the good job and makes me laugh, none of that really matters. It's really, how does he make you feel? So, coming up with that vision. And I would say the third thing is really asking yourself, who is the woman that you get to be to attract
Mm,
that man in? And this is a question I always ask women on their intake calls when they come in to work with me is, knowing that this is actually 90% in our control here. If it's really about the energy that we put out, is that what's we're attracting in, then what is that energy? Who is that woman that is embodying that energy? What is the energy that you're embodying that's going to attract that in? And
yeah.
I think those 3 questions are extremely powerful. And for anyone listening, I would really write those things down and take some time to journal on it because it's going to really influence how you go out into the world, the types of men you see, and the types of men that you attract in.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for this. I think this is really powerful because I feel that especially with dating, people don't really think about those things. We might have a plan for what we need to do in the next 5 years, career wise, or are we going to move here? Are we going to move there? Are we going to buy this house? Are we going to do this? But no one really thinks about how do they want their love life to look like. What
Mhm.
does that mean? Like how do you I think this is so important because once you get into a relationship, that the relationship lasts for a long time, lasts forever, or lasts for a little time. We are so affected by relationship, especially romantic relationships, that it just so makes so much sense to know where you want to go and try to drive into your life the people that make sense and can allow you to be who you want to be and meet the person that feels right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if any women want to kind of expedite this journey, I have 2 really beautiful meditations. They're free guided meditations that I'd love to share with your audience if you're
Yeah,
okay with that.
please.
One of them is a calling in the one guided meditation to really help get you into that frequency of envisioning and calling in that partnership. And the other one is called Love is Who I Am. And it's really about building up your self love and your self confidence and strengthening that inner strength and inner power within you. So I'll leave the link with you so you can
Yeah,
share
yeah,
that with
yeah.
your audience and can download
Everything
it.
will be in the show notes, so just check her out and you can get all of the meditations and surely they're really powerful. So do that. Okay, Teal, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Tell us where we can find you if we want to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone wants to just dive in deeper and explore my world, you're welcome to check out my website. I'll leave the link there. My Instagram is at Teal Elizabeth with an S. Underscore. I'll leave the link there. And if anyone is really just activated by this conversation and would love to just talk to me one on one, I would love to offer a free 30-minute love breakthrough call. And on this call, I'm happy to hold space for you to just hear more about where you're at and what you may be struggling with and just see how I can best support you. So I'll leave all of that with you for anyone interested.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and thank you. This was such a beautiful conversation.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Mara.
I hope you love this episode as much as I do. And if you want to get in touch with my guest, every detail is in the show notes. And if you want to work with me, you can just go to my website, theintuitionqueen.com. If you love this episode, if you like this episode or any other episode of this podcast, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes. This will really help me to grow the podcast and get more
Your mind is clearer
amazing
than
people
before.
and just spread
Your
the
heart
message
is full and
everywhere.
wanting more.
So
Your
thank you
future's
for
at the
listening and thank you for watching.
door.
Bye.